And in our series about President Moon's blueprint for a better Korea, Kim Hye-sung tells us more about the new administration's agenda of cooperative governance.
Months of political turmoil, historic candlelight protests, impeachment followed by a snap election. On May 10th, President Moon Jae-in was sworn into office on the Korean people's aspiration for change.
분열과 갈등의 정치도 바꾸겠습니다. 보수와 진보의 갈등은 끝나야 합니다. 그리고 지금 제 머리는 통합과 공존의 새로운 세상을 열어갈 청사진으로 가득 차 있습니다.
But to pull off major reform in politics and business will be a challenge for the ruling party. It holds only 120 out of 299 seats in parliament, less than a majority and far from the 180 seats needed to pass any controversial bill under the National Assembly Advancement Act. So for the Moon administration, forming a coalition or cooperating with other political parties will be a must.
That's why on his first day in office, President Moon met with the floor leaders of the 5 main political parties asking for cooperation. In appointing his top aides, Moon recruited politicians and experts from a variety of backgrounds rather than promoting his own campaign aides, in a bid to overcome the country's regional and factional rivalries.
By unified government, we mean bringing together our divided society politically and socioeconomically. To achieve that, President Moon has appointed people who are good at communication and negotiation, who are capable of narrowing the differences among the parties, like Lee Nak-hyun, who's nominated for Prime Minister.
But some members of the parliament disagree.
Cooperation is about coordination. I hope the ruling party can at least notify us about or discuss with us the appointments beforehand.
Experts say given that minister and vice minister level posts haven't been filled yet, it's too soon to evaluate Moon's policy when it comes to personnel. More important than who he hires, they say, is actual policy.
President Moon was elected on the people's desire for change. I think the most important thing for the Moon administration now is the actual detailed policy. Achieve things, build on them, and earn public support.
In his first week, President Moon scrapped plans for public schools to use state-authored history textbooks. He ordered that temporary public sector workers be made full-time and more, moves that were harshly criticized by the main opposition party.
Creating public sector jobs using taxpayer money, that's left-wing populism. If it were that easy, previous administrations would have done it. This is not the president's one-man show.
If the new administration wants to avoid political wrangling or losing public support during the honeymoon period, experts say it's critical to be strategic.
The Moon administration needs to set priorities. Push for policies like judicial reform and reining in the jebels first. That's where there's a consensus among the parties, unlike using the public sector to create jobs, which is supported by less than half the public, according to the election results.
We're going to play a tiebreaker role. Where we agree, we'll work with the ruling party. In areas where we think the other side's objections are reasonable, we'll cooperate with them.
Politics involves both conflict and compromise in pursuit of the public good. Regional elections are coming up in a year next June, which will be a barometer of public support for the Moon administration. So the president's 12 months in office could be a challenge or an opportunity.
Other parties are also getting back on their feet after the snap election. The most important thing for the success of the Moon administration now is working within the democratic system, within the Constitution. It's important to win the people's trust by showing that he is open to cooperation and compromise to deliver on his campaign promises.
And of course, while cooperating with political parties is key, communicating with the Korean public will be all the more important in the first year. At the end of the day, cooperative governance is a means to live up to the growing expectations of the Korean public for change.
국민 모두의 대통령이 되겠습니다.
김혜성, 아리랑 뉴스.